Everybody, Excel 10-minute leaders live. My name's Graham Brown. Today we're heading out into the big outdoors to reconnect with our primal state. What would a caveman do? That's the kind of question that comes up once in a while, faced with your everyday challenge. I'm joined in the studio by Merriweather, also known as Mark Vorderbruggen. Merriweather, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be in your jungle.
Yeah, well, I'm in the Singaporean jungle. You look like you're in your own jungle there.
Yeah.
So, which part of the world are you in?
So I'm in Houston, Texas, which from rainfall is practically a tropical rainforest type levels. Not the desert most people think.
All right. Okay, that's news to me. So, we got 10 minutes together. Merriweather, are you ready?
Bring it on.
Let's do it. All right. I'm going to ask you this question. I don't think you have business cards, but what does it say if you had one on your business card?
So instead of a business card, I have a motorcycle vest, and on the back of it, it says healer.
Healer?
Healer.
What are you healing?
People. I reacquaint people with the ancient plants to help deal with modern issues, which sounds like I'm a drug dealer. I'm not.
Right.
So,
Well, legal narcotics in a way. So,
well, not even
the ones that
narcotics.
grow in the garden. Yeah.
But
Okay. So, what's broken with people?
well, if you think about it, a lot of things. And you mentioned the caveman thing. So really what I'm trying to do is bring people back to incorporate caveman activities into their lifestyles. We evolved for 83,000 generations in wild jungles and prairies and things like that. We didn't have supermarkets. We didn't have concrete roadways. And so as we modernized through science and technology our lives, we lost a lot of the physical and mental activities that we evolved to really require for a healthy mind and body. And my goal, my passion is bringing that back to people.
Your superpower. How do you
Yes.
actually do that? Tell us about that.
So there's multi-stages. The simplest thing is through the company Medicine Man Plant Co. I've been bringing back the ancient plants for modern issues, looking through mankind's history and seeing the plants and mushrooms they use to treat issues, whether it be problematic liver, digestion, immune system, things like that. And if you think about it, for going back 83,000 generations and more, we co-evolved using these plants as medicine. And so we are genetically predispositioned for using them and reacting positively to them. So that's one thing. That's my day job. But then evenings and weekends, I'm doing this. Well, on weekends, I'm usually out leading groups of people into the wild and reacquainting them with the ways of the ancestors, mainly through the foods that can be eaten, the way to move, the way to observe nature, and basically interact with nature.
When you take them out into the wild, what are you doing there?
Again, mainly teaching them how to assess their surroundings and find resources in their surroundings that they did not realize were there. So the food, the medicine, the fire sticks, the cordage, that sort of thing.
So if I was to, let's say as an experiment, take Merriweather and drop him somewhere in the world in the wild, it could be Alaska, it could be the jungles of Borneo out here. What would it be like for you? Would you be able to survive, sustain indefinitely? Is it a bit of a myth that that's possible? What's the reality of that?
So if you're familiar with shows like Alone and Naked and Afraid, it's basically a variation of the Hunger Games. The real issue is we did not evolve surviving on our own alone in the wild. You need help. So as far as food, it all boils down to calories. Are there calories available in the form of plants or animals? Usually animals are a little more calorifically rich than most of the plants. I could definitely last longer than most people, but having played around with that many times, I gotta admit, being able to pop down to McDonald's every so often is pretty nice. But yeah, no, I'm willing if you got a place to drop me up. I got a knife.
That's the challenge is on. I mean, there's a lot of glamorization of it, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned some of those shows, and you've got people like Bear Grylls, and you've got those kind of survivor shows where they go very heroically, and they parachute them into the jungle, and then they have to, find like bugs and light a fire in the rain and these things. Do these shows help you in a way, or do they sort of skew people's understanding of what you do?
Both. So it definitely increased the interest in my foraging classes because people see, Bear Grylls and Cody London and all these guys out in the woods and eating berries and bugs and so forth and going, wow, I bet there's food around me. And if I were out there, what would I eat? And then they start looking up edible plants and then they find me and away we go. But I forgot what your question was.
Yeah, I mean, does it? Okay, so on the one part that helps you. Does that also detract from what you do?
But it does. There are certain people who go in with preconceived notions about the ease in surviving, and the main thing, the two big things, is how much firewood you need, and how much calories you need. Again, I love Les Stroud, Survivor Man. But he'll, talk about eating 3 berries a day, and people go, okay, that sounds good. What they don't know is if you talk to him behind the scenes, he'll lose 20 pounds the week he's out there shooting that stuff. So kind of fixing people's preconceived notions of 3 berries and a beetle is enough to survive. No, you need more than that. Put me in a pine forest, we're good to go. But
if you were in that sort of situation, what would be your, program mental drill that you would go through to adapt to that environment? It seems that that you have to assess the environment, you have to work out shelter, food, threats as well potentially, which I would have thought if you were the caveman or in a primal state this would come a lot more instinctively. But we are, our threats on a daily basis are, whether or not my phone's charged. That's the reality, right? That's the daily threat we face. How do you assess a situation like that?
Okay, so there's basically the rule of 3s. So without the right controlling of the body's temperature, you can die in 3 minutes or 3 hours. And then without water, about 3 days. Without food, 3 weeks. So my first goal is to assess the situation, figure out what the weather is, what the weather may become, and develop a plan to insulate or shade myself to deal with the weather. From there, then would begin scouting out to try and find water sources to make sure I have water. Also, while paying attention to whatever threats might be out there. As I'm looking for water, I will be mentally and remembering where I see possible food, but the shelter or even just insulation, shoving leaves in my shirt to build up an air layer, like a puffy down jacket or something like that. But some sort of, what do I need to protect myself from heat loss or overheating, and then where is the water? After that, food is a distant third. It's nice to have,
but you got 3 weeks to find it.
Well, really, you have about 2 weeks, and then a week of just laying there, not really able to move before you die, and hopefully they can find you then. So I would definitely start looking after I've secured the water. Then I'd go out and be looking for the food.
So in terms of your actual life, if you could actually design it, I mean, you live in a city, you go into the wild and take people out there, you live a hybrid lifestyle. Given the choice, would you spend more time, would you live out in the woods like Walden style?
Most definitely.
You would? That would be your ideal
I would have a shack in the woods, and people would come and bring me live chickens in canning jars, and I would teach them. And that would be the exchange right there.
Right. Is that possible to do? Is it possible to live that lifestyle in modern America?
Yeah, it is. If you spend a lot of years developing a good bank account so you can buy a piece of property and all that, I recommend not having, a wife and 2 teenage kids. There's some difficulties with that, but so I live in suburbia and spend the weekends in the wild with people.
Yeah. That's a good mix. Yeah. All right, so rounding up then, before I ask people to go and check you out, I want to give you a little bit of a stage to teach us something. So in 2 minutes, what could you teach us about your craft? Obviously, we don't have access to bugs and traps and spears for fishing right now,
Right.
but something maybe about the mindset in 2 minutes that could really improve our life or business or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So the trick is understand the resources available to you. Don't spend a lot of time dwelling on things that are theoretical. Learn what is in your circle. So in the case of edible plants, you want to look at the plants around you, identify them, and figure out which ones are edible. You don't go out looking for edible plants. You identify the resources right there around you more than anything else. I've known a lot of people that go searching for unicorns and holy grails, walking by all sorts of resources. So you got to identify the people, the resources, the equipment, and what you can do with it, and what you can do with it that isn't necessarily in the owner's manual. So, but utilize the resources you have before looking for exotic stuff.
In life and business, that plays out. Words of wisdom from Mark Merriweather, as he's known. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Where do we find out more about you?
So the two websites, the medicinemanplantco.com is my healing company with the ancient plants for modern issues. And then foragingtexas.com is the caveman stuff. And of course,
Fantastic.
LinkedIn and all that sort of thing too. So,
He's on LinkedIn as well. He's a modern
hey,
man.
secret. I have a PhD in physical organic chemistry. Spent
Oh, love
18
it.
years creating, chemicals for the oil field industry before I finally escaped back to where I belong.
Well, it's not like it's a different world, though, is it? I mean, obviously, it's a different world in terms of the objectives, but the way you think about the problem is very similar, isn't it?
Exactly, especially in the high-speed, high-expense world of oil fields. When you're out in the rig and it's $1 million a day if it shut down, you learn to analyze the resources that are on hand right now and make them do something they may not have necessarily been designed to do, but damn it, it'll make it do it. So,
Fantastic. I'm sure people will want to find out more about you. So go and check out those websites that Merriweather has shared with us. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. That was a lot of fun.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.